In this demonstration, we're going to walk through extending our data loss prevention capabilities to data at rest as well as third-party CASB integration. So the way we do this is we come to administration, SaaS application tenants, to integrate with third-party SaaS applications to scan content that exists there. So I'll start with adding an application. In this example, I'll add box.com, but there are multiple third-party applications Zscaler supports. So we'll go to box.com and my tenant name is called data parity. And you'll see Zscaler generates a SaaS connector ID. So I need to click go to box settings, which I already had opened, and I'll come into my apps screen and custom apps manager. I'll then click add app and I enter the client ID and click next, and then I click authorize, and then I can see that the Zscaler SaaS connector cloud app has been created. It's authorized and enabled. What I need to do next is come to account and billing as part of the exchange of information, and I copy my enterprise ID and I come across here back to Zscaler and I paste in the enterprise ID, and I've now created a federation between Zscaler and box.com. So it'll validate the information, making sure that it's updated. Let's refresh this page, and we can see now that it is active and we have this federation. So now we can go ahead and start creating some policy. So in this tenant, I already have my default DLP dictionaries, the predefined dictionaries that include identity card information, national insurance number, social security numbers, credit card numbers, that are grouped together into DLP engines. So a PCI dictionary that identifies credit cards and social security numbers, which we can then trigger on. So what I want to do is come across to policy, and I'll come across to my SaaS security API control. And so I have a number of different scanning capabilities here. I'm going to specifically focus on data loss prevention and add my DLP rules, but I can equally apply malware detection for those files as well. I have the ability to exclude content from the policy, so the policy will scan for everything, and I can put some exceptions in, scanning exceptions that occur across the board, as well as how to generate alerts. What I'll do under policy, I'll add a DLP rule. Rule number 1, number of admin ranks as we would normally configure. This rule is enabled, and I'll select my box.com data parity instance there, but I could equally apply this if I had multiple instances to simplify and group applications together. And so again, I have a number of filters that I can filter on, files by specific owners, groups, departments, and then I will scan against all of my DLP engines. Let's specifically focus on the PCI engine. I scan any file type, and I can filter again on different collaboration types, if it's available externally, internally, what links are available, if it's marked as private or not. So I'll say any collaboration type that's applied to the files. If I had a DLP incident receiver, so the incident receiver being the virtual machine that receives files that have matched against DLP policy, I could send the files here. And what do I want to do as an action? So I can mark files as read-only for all, or internal or external. I can remove all of the links, remove sharing entirely, or I'll just report on the incident. So in this case, I'll just report on the incident, and I'll say these have got a high severity. And again, then I can make notifications. I can either send it to an auditor that I've configured, or I can generate emails to external identities. So I'm going to leave this as pretty simple configuration. We're going to look for files that trigger on the PCI engine in my box.com tenant that I created, and then we'll just run a report on it afterwards. So we'll click save, and we'll click activate, and my rule has been created. So what we'll do is we'll come across to analytics, and we'll come to the SaaS security report. So the security report tells me which applications have been in use as users have been browsing, but I can come across to assets, and we can see the SAS assets report. And this tells me that I've got a box.com tenant that has been scanning. We found about 840 files. If we click on this and drill down, files with a DLP violation, we can start to see the files that have come across. So we've gone ahead, we've scanned some content, we've seen a file here, social security number or SSN CC in all files SSE is a high severity incident that triggered against a DLP rule. And of course we configured to just report on this, so we haven't taken any action. So I can click here and I can do things like remove the public link. I could go to the file and take a look at this file. It'll link across to box.com. But I could actually go ahead and inspect that document directly. And as you can see here, it had a bunch of credit card numbers. So if we come back to our violations here, we can come across and we could remove the public link. So we take it off the internet, or we can actually have a look at the scan history, which will go through that analytics and show us when that file was scanned, which rule it triggered against, what the action was, and other information about the file, MD5 hashes and things like that. It tells us about how long it took to process the file, the hashes of the file, which of our data centers actually did the processing, and other information about the file which we can use to track file changes over time, look for duplicate file types, share externally. So scan configuration defines when the scanning will occur. So I'll create a schedule, I'll select that data parity tenant and that policy that I just created, and I can make some decisions on where to scan. So I can scan all data, data after a certain time, new data only. This is the initial scan, so I will scan all data, but I might want to scan more periodically for new files or whatever. So let's click save on that one, and I can activate that change as well. So I can go ahead now and click play. It'll start scanning the content on my box tenant. And if I look at the content within my box.com instance, I've got quite a lot of content from quite a lot of users, lots of files. So it will take some time to run through all of this content. However, we can come across to analytics and we can look at the SAS security insights. And we can see it started to scan content. Let's look at insights. Specifically, let's look at logs for the last 2 minutes. We know that it started to scan for content. Let's pause and give it a bit of time. As I said, under our policy for SAS security, we have DLP. We could also do the same for malware detection on our box.com tenant and scan for files for malware. Again, if we detect malware, third party has updated or uploaded a file for malware onto our box.com tenant, we can tombstone that file and prevent users from downloading it. Or again, also our users uploading files and prevent those from being shared externally, affecting our company reputation. We have exceptions in here, scanning exceptions within these files, so which tenants, which owners of those users and folder information. We can add total exceptions from that to prevent scanning for sensitive data or data that we know specifically is going to contain this kind of information that we specifically want to share externally.